Hello everyone, welcome to Achievers IAS classes. Let's begin our discussion on the current events of 6th March 2018. The first issue in news is an editorial regarding the India Meteorological Department's forecast of above normal temperatures across the country during the pre-monsoon period of March to May. This is a cause of concern for state authorities because even a marginal rise above the normal temperatures will lead to enormous heat stress for millions of Indians, particularly those living with deprived conditions. Moreover, the risk increases manifold in certain groups like senior citizens, people with pre-existing diseases, people with mental illness or disability, etc., which prevents them from taking care of themselves during such adverse conditions. Therefore, the forecast of hot weather by the Indian Meteorological Department may pose a public health challenge for which the Indian states, particularly in northern, central, and eastern parts, must prepare with the experience gained during the previous heat waves. And in this regard, it is the responsibility of the government to ensure that community level interventions are taken up to help the vulnerable groups. A failure to do so may not only result in lots of deaths, but many more could encounter exhaustion, cramps, and other heat stress associated ailments. In this regard, the World Health Organization recommends that countries should adopt heat health warning systems, including daily alerts, to ensure that people are in a position to deal with adverse weather, like reducing their exposure, meeting the water scarcity in many areas, etc. In the long term, India has to pursue its objective of reducing the greenhouse gases vigorously because there is a perceived link between increase in the average temperatures caused by climate change and the frequency and intensity of extreme weather events, which could negatively affect the human population. With that, let's look into the next issue, which is an editorial regarding the recently released Rule of Law Index by the World Justice Project. We had seen previously about the Rule of Law Index, which measures the extent to which the countries have upheld the rule of law as well as ranking of various countries in the list. Every country's performance was assessed in 8 wide-ranging areas from fundamental rights to absence of discrimination to the freedom of expression and religion. The survey found out that 71 out of the 113 countries which have been assessed during the period of 2017-18 have experienced a drop in their score, which seen along with the Amnesty International annual report for the same period indicates the serious erosion of international human rights law in the recent times. It is so because of not one particular country, but due to developments across the world, like the assault on civil liberties and freedoms in countries like Turkey and China, where there is increasing hostility towards civil society organizations, negation of human rights of refugees, even in countries like Australia and the United States of America, rise of majoritarian attitudes, hate speech and hate crimes in many countries including India, mass atrocities like war crimes, genocide, etc. in countries like Iraq, Myanmar, Central African Republic, Burundi, etc. highlighting not just the erosion of human rights but also the normalization of it, which is a grave concern. We need to remember that the Second World War and the horrors of Holocaust provided an impetus for the world to adopt the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which upholds the ideals of justice, equality, fundamental rights, and freedoms to all individuals alike. And any failure to uphold human rights has always ended with major catastrophes because commission of mass atrocities do not happen in vacuum but in an environment in which rights are minimized or discarded, providing further grounds for a more concerted assault on human rights. For instance, the UN Tribunal found out that radio stations in Rwanda facilitated the demonizing of the Tutsis tribe by the warring Hutu tribe in the build-up to the genocide of the Tutsis. Also, prior to the Holocaust, Jewish populations across Europe were deprived of basic rights including that of citizenship and the right to practice a livelihood. Therefore, to arrest this slide in human rights, the countries must involve in greater engagement with the United Nations and other such institutions to uphold human rights, thereby ensuring rule of law in these countries. With that, let's look into the next issue, which is regarding the bilateral relations between India and China. 2017 was a difficult year for the bilateral ties between these two countries for various reasons like the Doklam standoff, difference in opinion over Masood Azhar, India's inclusion into the nuclear suppliers group, etc. In this regard, both India and China are seeking to step up the pace of improving the ties between the two countries with various high level ministerial meetings as well as a summit meeting between Prime Minister of India and the Chinese President. In this regard, China has agreed for Pakistan's nomination to the FATF grey list, which will act as a check against terrorist financing in Pakistan, while the Indian government has agreed to be more careful of China's sensitivities and has recently put off the IDSA Asian Security Conference, which was expected to take a hawkish line on Chinese security policy and the Belt and Road Initiative. The two countries are also hoping to improve the trade imbalances and are expected to attend an informal ministerial meeting of the World Trade Organization organized by the Commerce Ministry. As the World Trade Organization ministerial meeting is seen as a significant platform of countries worried by the United States' tough position on tariffs and its negative attitude towards the World Trade Organization. Apart from this, engagement between the two countries at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit as well as the Boa Forum for Asia, which is China's equivalent of the World Economic Forum, is expected to take place, which could further normalize the relationship between the troubled neighbors. With that, let's look into the other issues in news today, which is regarding the recent decision of the World Trade Organization to set up a panel to determine whether India has complied with its ruling in a case about domestic content requirements for solar panels, which was given out in 2016 when India lost a case after the WTO stated that the power purchase agreements signed by the Indian government with solar firms for its national solar mission did not meet with the international trade norms. We'll further look into this issue in detail as it evolves in the days to come, given the importance of the issue from the examination perspective. With that, I wrap up today's news analysis. Do share this content if you like it. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.